beauty, and welcome to the Blossoming Beauties YouTube channel. This is a safe space where we talk about all things that have to do with the woman's heart and living beautifully. If you are a woman and you are looking for a tribe to grow into your most beautiful life with, then I invite you to click the subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell so that you get notified whenever I put up new content. Also, if you like the video, please give it a like and let me know, and then leave a comment below with your thoughts. Your feedback and your encouragement means so much to me. I'm not doing this to monologue and just put more chatter out there. My heart really wants to take everything that I've gone through in my life and then share it with other women, because I believe that women are extremely powerful, and the experiences that we go through and the culture that we're in can be very disempowering. I just want to create a safe space where we can come together and be honest and real and talk about hard things and grow and heal and learn to live free as women. Today, we are going to talk about anxiety. There has been a lot of anxiety in the air this year of 2020 with everything that we've been going through. People have really been struggling with anxiety, and even people that may never have struggled with anxiety before or may not have been aware of the low-level anxiety that was normalized for them, but it's been coming to a head because the pressure has been put on. There's a lot of unknowns, and that can create a lot of anxiety within us. And I am super familiar with anxiety. I struggled with anxiety on again, off again in my life. And sometimes I would get really bad bouts of anxiety. I remember having some anxiety attacks that were so bad, I literally physically felt like I was dying. And then this last bout of anxiety that I finally decided I needed to get a grip on it. I needed to figure out what was going on within me and how to overcome it, because I did not want to live this way. It was about 6 years ago, and it was to the point where I couldn't even leave my house. I didn't want to be around people. I just became a shut in. Life just felt a lot safer that way. And that's not who I am. The circumstances that I had been through had just taken a toll on me and broken me down so much that anxiety had a complete grip on my life, and I just could not get up from under it. I'm not a professional. I'm not a doctor. I'm not licensed, but I will share from my story, and I'm going to share with you guys today some practical things that helped me overcome anxiety, because I can honestly say that I've been anxiety free for many years. Anxiety is no longer a thing that I struggle with. Of course, it'll come up from time to time because we're human and anxiety is a real emotion, but it no longer grips me like it used to. It no longer controls my life. If anxiety is something that you struggle with, if you struggle with anxiety disorder or PTSD or OCD or any of these things, you can be free. The medical world labels us and tells us this is who you are, this is who you're always going to be, here's some medication. But I don't think that's the case for everybody. I think sometimes we can completely be free. And Jesus said, but she who has been set free is free indeed. The turning point in my life 6 years ago, I was struggling with depression, PTSD, anxiety disorder. I was a shell of myself. And I sat in my backyard on my patio crying out to God. And I threw his word back at him, you guys. I said in John 10:10, Jesus, you said that the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but that you came to give me abundant life. And this life I'm living is not abundant life. I just wanted to learn how to really live. Hence, where the whole concept of living beautifully came. I want to share with you what I've learned and some tools that have helped me in my journey of getting free from the control of anxiety in my life. So I hope and pray that this video blesses you. If you have any questions, please leave a comment in the comments below. I get that these things are hard to talk about and we don't necessarily want to expose ourselves to the world, but girlfriend, I'm exposing myself to the world. So let's just create that safe space. Honestly, sometimes we feel like we're the only ones that struggle with something until we start putting our neck out of our shells and sharing ourselves and sharing our stories with others. And then we realize, whoa, I'm not the only one that struggles with this. We are really good at keeping it together, putting ourselves together, picking up our bootstrap, pulling up our big girl panties, and facing the world. But the truth is a lot of us are feeling overwhelmed, discouraged, defeated. Our hearts are broken. We're struggling with anxiety. We're struggling with feeling out of control. We're not living our best lives. And if we're honest with ourselves, we know it. And I want to start with that point. We cannot heal whatever we're unwilling to be honest about. So if you're not willing to acknowledge to yourself, let alone to another person, that anxiety is something that you struggle with, whatever we're unwilling to be honest about, we cannot heal. Healing requires honesty. Counseling, oh my gosh, when I was first told I needed to go to counseling, which was the best piece of advice a doctor could have possibly given me. But I had anxiety about going to counseling because I had not had good experiences with counselors in my past. I was so desperate for help. God really blessed me, and I ended up working for 2 years with an incredible counselor who really worked hard with me and helped me completely transform my life and get past things that had been tripping me up and holding me back for a really long time. I would recommend counseling. If anxiety, OCD, depression, if these things are constant struggles of yours, or they come up more often than they don't, get professional help. It might take a while for you to find the right fit. There are people that really care and are able and equipped to help you in the unique way that you need help. Honestly, I had so much peace of mind just in knowing that I had someone that I could talk to. When things would come up and I would get hit with like triggering situation, and I knew I'm going to go talk to my counselor in a couple of days, it taught me that I could shelf things. I don't have to freak out about this right now. I can put it on the shelf, and in a couple of days I can talk about it with my counselor. And that in and of itself was a tool. When we get hit with the flood of emotion, of anxiety, we want to fix it. We want to resolve it right away. But we're in fight or flight mode at that point. Like, our brain is no good. That is not the time to sit and spin about it. It's like the moment where we have to like breathe through it, put it on a shelf until you're in a sound enough mental state and your emotions are not flaring within you and you're not in the fight or flight mode, and you can make a grounded, healthy, mature, sound decision. The more we practice this, especially if we struggle with chronic anxiety, it's like the littlest thing triggers us. But the more we practice shelving something and breathing through it until we are in a sound state of mind and can come back to the situation and make a clear, level-headed decision about it. Oh my gosh, you guys, there's so much freedom in just that, and realizing that not everything is truly a crisis. Not everything is an emergency. Not everything is the end of the world. But when you're struggling with anxiety, it feels that way. Learning that feelings are not always facts. That's a hard one for some of us. Some of us are very emotional. I am a very emotional person. I've always been an emotional person, and I love that about myself. I love that I am expressive and that I'm a feeler. I think that it enriches my life in its own unique way. When I was unhealthy, that was an unhealthy part about me. But as I've grown in appreciating my emotions and healing my hurt emotions, and learning how to manage emotion without letting my emotions control me, I've learned and realized that my emotions are actually part of what makes me beautiful, is that I just feel things so deeply. Emotions are a part of the human existence, and the more that we can embrace them without letting them control us or without denying them, the more healthy and beautifully we can live, and honestly, the more we can connect and relate with others. What I have found is that even though all of our stories are different, oftentimes the experiences we go through affect the heart in the same way. Our emotions are something that we have in common, and we can connect with one another in a compassionate place through them when we have healed our emotions and don't allow them to control us and don't deny them. I'm going to talk about essential oils. When I first got introduced to essential oils, I definitely thought it was nonsense. One of my girlfriends brought me to an essential oils workshop, and I did not want to go. This was when I was going through a really brutal divorce, but it was like one of the best things that could have happened for me. Essential oils was a tool that God used in my life to help me heal my body and heal my emotional state. Aromatherapy is a real thing. If you can see in my diffuser, right over here, Every time I make a video, I'm diffusing something. So the very first oil that I got introduced to completely sold me. I knew that there was something to this. Was a Young Living oil, and it's called Valor. Okay, so the story behind this one. Like I said, I was going through a really brutal divorce and things had been bad for several months. And when I say bad, I mean bad, you guys. They were bad. I ended up going one day to this essential oils workshop, fingers in the ear, hard heart, arms crossed, closed off to it, not interested in it at all. This woman was going through the starter kit, put a couple in her hands, and we'd smell them, and I was just like, this is lame. I don't want to be here. Then she brought out Valor, and she put a couple of drops of Valor in my hand, and this was one of the last ones that we did, and I rubbed it in my hand, and we were told to take 3 deep inhales each time. So I went in for my first deep inhale. I literally felt a shift go whoosh, like wash over me. There was a physical sensation of a shift that took place in my body. I come to find out Valor is for when you feel like you're fighting a losing battle, for when you feel like you're being attacked, for helping us overcome fear. These were all things that I was going through in my divorce process. These were the emotions that were dominant, that were in my body, locked in, that I was in a constant state of battle. I was in a constant state of feeling like I was waiting to be attacked at any minute. Like my body was just bing on high alert, and I wasn't a believer. So there was no believer bias here. I was a non-believer. And I smelt it. I literally felt a shift through my entire body. I actually signed up for a one-on-one with this lady, and we did some oil release work. I started slowly building up my oil collection, and I started doing some oil release work through my emotional recovery process of overcoming anxiety and depression and PTSD, a lot of other things. So I was an emotional mess at that point. I got the starter kit. It came in the starter kit, and every time I would have to go to meet with the lawyers about the divorce process, or I had to deal with interacting with that situation, I would just oil myself up. And this is one of my most favorite oils. I have such an emotional connection to this oil because it was the oil that made me a believer. Valor, if you are a Young Living member and you are struggling with anxiety, fear, if you're living through an abusive situation or dealing with abusive situations at work, I would highly recommend this oil. You can diffuse it, you can put it on you. It really helps me, and I believe that it will help you as well. I want to share with you 3 other essential oils that are great for helping with stress and anxiety. Stress Away, and Stress Away smells delicious. This was beautiful to wear even just as like a perfume. It's very like limey and vanilla-y. It's got like a very comforting smell. And here's a tip, okay? So I would recommend getting a diffuser and diffusing oils in your home because it sets an atmosphere and then you're releasing the aroma through the house. When I was living in a war zone, the days I diffused joy were so much more peaceful than the days that I did not diffuse joy. And the person that I was living with had no idea. When I ran out of the joy, things got bad again. I'm just saying, you guys, like if you're having strife at home, if you have a husband who struggles with anxiety, start diffusing oils in your home. As you go to brush your teeth or you're making your pot of coffee, start diffusing oils. Essential oils and aromatherapy can absolutely shift the atmosphere of your home. The Bible talks a lot about oils and anointing ourselves with oils. So here's my take on that. I believe that God created everything and that everything that God created is good. The problem is when we start worshiping the creation over the creator. Now, I'm not putting my hope and trust and faith in these oils, but I do see these oils as something that God gave us, the plants that he gave us, and that there are medicinal benefits to it. And I would rather use what God gave us to bring my body into balance than things that man has made. Now, that's just my personal preference. I'm not saying everybody needs to do that. We all have our own convictions, and one thing doesn't work for everyone. All I can say is from my story, these oils have really helped. This is Peace and Calming. This is another beautiful smelling oil that you can diffuse at night when you're sleeping to help you sleep well. If you're feeling anxious, put it on your body, put it on a cotton ball in a vent in your car so that you have that aroma, and it's just a very calming and grounding smell. And then the last one that I want to share with you guys, which is really good for helping with anxiety, is Surrender. Now this one has more of like an earthy kind of smell. It's a little sweet, but earthy. as I worked through my emotional stuff, oils was something that I incorporated in my healing process. Not just emotional, but like hormones. Essential oils have helped me so much in regulating hormones, because when we're living in constant stress and anxiety, it throws our hormones off. And so I had really bad menstrual cycles. My hormonal fluxes were extreme. My hormones were way off balance. Using essential oils has really helped regulate my hormones. If that's something that you'd be interested in, leave a comment below and let me know. Breathing. Our nerves can be calmed through breath work. Take in a deep inhale and you let it out and you become intentional about your breath, and it can bring you from that fight or flight mode back into a stable, sound condition, where then you are able to look at the situation you're in more clearly and make a better decision about how you want to navigate through it. And you can just feel yourself center and ground. It feels so good. Pause and breathe. So now I want to share with you a book that I read when I was going through my healing process. Healing is a choice. So many of us think that, the doctor labels us a certain way and that's how it's got to be. We're going to be broken for the rest of our lives. We do not need to live broken lives for the rest of our lives. We can heal, but it is a choice. And so if anxiety is something that you struggle with, you can just own it and claim it as your identity. Well, I've always been an anxious person and I'll always be an anxious person. Or you can get to the point where you're like, you know what? I'm tired of anxiety ruling over my life. I want to live a life of peace and joy and confidence, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to attack this thing and overcome it in my life. And it might take time, and it might be 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back for a while. But I promise you that if we set our minds to overcoming something, we will overcome it. And there are so many tools and resources. Another great resource, books that I read, podcasts that I listened to, YouTube videos that I watched when I was going through that season, Dr. Carolyn Leaf. Dr. Carolyn Leaf is amazing. She gives so much hope for those of us who struggle with mental health issues like anxiety, depression, PTSD. She is a researcher and she studies the neurological system, and she is all about neuroplasticity. And so what I got from the information that I learned from Dr. Carolyn Leaf was the hope that what I struggled with, I did not need to struggle with my whole life, that I would not have to struggle with depression for the rest of my life. I would not have to struggle with anxiety for the rest of my life. I had learned a system of beliefs, and this is how I processed and perceived life. And it shaped my thoughts, and my thoughts shaped my neurological pathways, which shaped the hormones released, which shaped my emotions. And it was this reinforcing process that I was in. But as I learned to change my thinking about situations, whatever you feed grows and whatever you starve dies. And so as I started to starve out the negativity in my life, the anxiety, the fear, the despair, the depression, as I started to starve that out and grow in a new way of perceiving and processing things, this became dominant and this fizzled out, and this became my new normal. It became my new set point. If I can do it, you can do it. And Dr. Karen Leaf is all about it. And she has so much information. She's got this 21-day brain detox that she does. I highly recommend Dr. Carolyn Leaf. Dr. Carolyn Leaf brought me so much hope and gave me tools that I could put into practice so that I could rewire my brain and get my brain beyond a constant anxious flight or fight state. The very last thing that I want to talk about, and honestly, I could go on so much more, and maybe this will become a series, I don't know. Community. Even if it's just 1 or 2 people in your life that you can talk openly with about your struggles, not to vent, not to get pity, people who are going to quote unquote tell you what you want to hear, that are going to reinforce the destructive behavior in your life. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are going to hear you and create a safe space of grace for you to be honest with what you're struggling with, but that are also going to challenge you and hold you accountable to grow beyond it. When I was going through that season, I call my wilderness season, there's a verse in Song of Solomon, which is one of my favorite books in the scriptures, and it's just a big old love poem. There's one verse specifically, and it says, "Who is this coming from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved?" And my heart just loved that verse because I had been in a wilderness season for so long, and I knew that at some point I would be coming out of that wilderness season. And I just pictured myself leaning on Jesus. It was just me and Jesus. It was just me and Jesus. One day he called to my mind that one verse, "Who is this coming from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved?" And then the Holy Spirit began to speak to me about how Jesus has a body. Leaning on Jesus means leaning on fellow believers, is leaning on other people. See, our culture and society really puts a lot of pressure on us to be independent. We either find ourselves on two ends of this spectrum of we're either codependent or we're independent, but we were actually created to be interdependent. And I read a quote that said that trauma becomes trauma when we have to go through extremely painful experiences alone. But if we go through painful experiences with community, then it's painful, but it's not traumatic. It's the aloneness that causes pain to become trauma. And so I just want to encourage you, don't settle for a life lesser than what is available for you. Jesus came so that we could be more than overcomers, and he came so that we could be free. We do not have to be slaves to fear, to insecurity, to depression. We don't have to live as slaves to those things. We truly can overcome them. And for some of us, it might be immediate because God can heal immediately. And for some of us, it might be a process that he walks us through because he wants to teach us and reveal himself to us in different ways through that process. And that's what it looked like for me. But I believe that whatever we walk through, we then get to go and help other people walk through it. And so I really hope, you guys, that this video was helpful for you. Let me know one or two things that you took away from this in the comments below. I really am so looking forward to interacting with you guys and getting to know you guys more. I hope you guys are doing well. I just pray that the peace of Christ, which surpasses all understanding, would flood over you, and that you would receive the hope of freedom, and that you would have the courage to contend for and the resolution to go after living a whole, healthy, and free life, and discovering who you are as an emotional being without letting emotions control you and without denying them altogether, because it's a part of who we are as women, as humans. Men are emotional too, and when we can learn how to embrace it in a healthy way, not only does it help us live beautiful lives, but it helps enrich in our relationships. And as women, relationship is something that is so important. And so there's just nothing but benefits that come when we heal our emotional self. I pray that this was a blessing to you, and I will see you guys again soon.